Welcome to the weekly shir, the Zera Shimshon. I hope everybody is wonderfully healthy and having success in all their endeavors. It's Hashem. It is now or Chav Dalid Adar Aleph and Tavshin Pei Beis. And this Shabbos is Parshat Vayakhel. It's also the Parshat Shkolim. It's Hashem Purim's coming soon. It's arriving, and everybody would have a very happy time. And Adar Marbi B'Simcha, even more so on this Shabbos, which is a special Shabbos for all those who come to hear the Parsha of Vayakhel. Okay, and I'm going to read this in English today because I haven't had a lot of time to prepare, and it's great. It's actually very good. Two things here are very great. So it says, Vayakhel Moshe es kol adas b'nei Yisrael vayomer alehem ela hadvarim asher tziva Hashem la'asei. Moshe assembled the entire assembly of the children of Israel and said to them, these are the things that Hashem commanded to do them. Okay? Rashi comments about that this assembly happened on the day after Yom Kippur, when Moshe Rabbeinu descended from the mountain after getting atonement for the sin of the golden calf. The next pasuk, Moshe commands the people regarding Shabbos. Why was the first warning about keeping the mitzvahs directly about Shabbos? You'd think it would have been about avodah zarah. So there are so many mitzvahs. Why was this one specifically chosen as Moshe's focus? Okay. The Gemara explains. The Gemara in Shabbos, Kuf Yud Ches, Omid Beis, that Bnei Yisrael did not completely keep their first Shabbos. And this weakness on their part was the reason that the nations would be able to dominate them later on. The Gemara further states that anyone who keeps Shabbos with all its laws, even if he worships idols like the generation of Enosh, will be forgiven. Keeping Shabbos is that powerful. Elsewhere, the Gemara points out that Bnei Yisrael would not have sinned with the golden calf. No, if they had not sinned with the golden calf, no other nation would have been able to dominate them. That's the Gemara in Vayakhel Zorah, Daf Hey Omid Aleph. Why? It says regarding the luchos that the words of the Ten Commandments were charus, means engraved on the tablets. Chazal explained that we can read the term not as charus but as cherus, freedom, implying that by keeping the Torah, Bnei Yisrael were free from enslavement by others. However, when they sinned with the golden calf, they lost that right, their right to freedom from the other nations. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu took up the nation's cause before Hashem, begging and entreating him to forgive the Jews for their sin. In the end, Hashem finally forgave them on Yom Kippur. Moshe Rabbeinu descended from heaven on that very day, and the first thing he did when he returned was to warn them about keeping Shabbos properly. Why was it so vital that Bnei Yisrael keep Shabbos right then? Moshe Rabbeinu wanted them to understand something very important. If Bnei Yisrael had just kept Shabbos in the first place, there would never have been a need for him to work so hard defending them. And they would never have needed Yom Kippur to bring about their forgiveness or atonement. They would not have needed prayers, and they would not have been in danger. As the Gemara in Shabbos says, Kuf Yud Tes Amud Aleph, states, it's a Hamshech of the other Gemara, someone who keeps Shabbos in the proper fashion will be forgiven even if he worships idols. If Bnei Yisrael would have just kept Shabbos, they would have been forgiven for the sin of the golden calf. However, they didn't keep Shabbos, and they were involved with the golden calf. And despite the fact that they did receive a certain measure of forgiveness through Moshe Rabbeinu's defense of them, the nations were still able to send them into exile because they had lost their eternal freedom through their sins. The only way you can protect yourself now for the future, Moshe Rabbeinu said to Bnei Yisrael, is by keeping Shabbos kilchasai, with all of its laws and all the dikdukim. Since the mitzvah Shabbos brings the redemption, as we are taught that if Bnei Yisrael would have only managed to keep 2 Shabbos, they would have immediately be redeemed. That's the Gemara in Shabbos there in Daf Kuf Yud Ches Amud Beis. And that is the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu discussed the mitzvah of Shabbos as soon as he returned from heaven, because he wanted them to know that it was this mitzvah out of all the others that would protect them from here on. Moshe Rabbeinu therefore informed them that of this even prior to the construction of the Mishkan. The name Mishkan alludes to the term mashkon, or collateral, as Rashi in Shmai says in 38:20, Pasuk 21. He writes in Pekudei, the word Mishkan is an allusion to the Beis HaMikdash, which was taken as collateral when it was destroyed for the sins of Klal Yisrael. So Moshe gave Bnei Yisrael a suggestion for rectifying their sins through keeping Shabbos, even before commanding them to build the Mishkan. The merit of fulfilling this great mitzvah possessed the capability of protecting them from being sent into exile and ensuring that the future Beis HaMikdash would not be taken from them as collateral. And here's the segula. The learning that a person does on Shabbos is worth more than the Torah study he accomplishes during the week. Reb Zev, not a real name, from Haifa, had this story to tell. It's a real person, but not his real name. As a member of the workforce, I managed to learn daily daf, which I hope everybody's doing, right, throughout the week, and not much more. Of course, I knew that I should find the time to learn more, but somehow it didn't happen. Then one Shabbos, I was sitting in shul, and there was a copy of the Zera Shimshon weekly newsletter lying on the table not far away. I picked it up and began perusing it, first idly and then with rising interest. The concepts were beautiful, mamish pearls of wisdom in every way, and even the style of writing was clear and pleasant and professional. I enjoyed the Torah of the Zera Shimshon very much, and I was drawn to the author's unique promise to all who learn it. So it began. Every week, without fail, I'd make sure to bring home a copy of the newsletter. Then, during the course of the Friday night Suda, I'd read through the pearls contained within. This became a firm tradition in our home. A year passed with the Zera Shimshon, by now a standard and much welcome guest in our home. Unfortunately, people are weak. For some reason, the newsletter was no longer distributed in my shul. And when that happened, instead of going out and got out of my way to obtain a copy somewhere else, I just kind of allowed our precious Friday night Seder with Zera Shimshon to fall by the wayside. Time passed. One day I realized something interesting. I work as an insurance broker in a fairly large office. My take-home pay is dependent on the number of policies I sell, of course. For many years, I had been bringing home a very decent salary and had been sufficiently satisfied with my parnasa, to the point where I stopped giving thought to moving up in the company. You've done well, I said to myself. There's really nowhere else to climb. As I sat there, sunk in a rare moment of introspection, I realized that for the entire year that we as a family had been learning Zera Shimshon every Friday night, I had managed to close increasingly higher policies every month. My boss was surprised by my success. In truth, it really wasn't normal, and he couldn't stop smiling and increasing my paycheck. During the entire year, I'd enter the office in the morning, and from the second I sat down at my desk, I didn't have a moment to breathe from the sheer volume of work that was coming my way. I recalled the meetings and the phone calls and the contracts and realized how successful I'd been throughout the year, abnormally successful. But that wasn't the end of my realization, because I also understood that from the moment I ceased learning Zera Shimshon, business reverted to the way it had been before. Suddenly I was back to normal, with a regular modest paycheck, normal and moderate successes. At that moment I understood that the schus of learning the Zera Shimshon had been standing at my side the entire year and assisting me with my parnasa in a very real way. It goes without saying that I immediately resolved to begin learning Zera Shimshon every Friday night, and come what may, not because of the money, but because the Zera Shimshon had been such a clear and obvious source of blessing in our lives, a source of blessing that I was no longer willing to live without it. Sure, money is important, but learning the Zera Shimshon is so much more than money. It's like a guardian angel keeping watch over a person. And that being the case, I didn't really see how I could willingly choose to forego such a wonderful schos. May everybody be blessed with parnasa b'revach, mitzvah Hashem, and a lot of refuah shleimus. A lot of people are not doing well. And we need to have a lot of refuah shleimas, and people that don't have children yet should be blessed with children, as is promised by the Zera Shimshon. So I wish everybody a good Shabbos, Kol Tov, Zay Gebench.